What it do is your man DC Cab, and today we talking about the 90s. So back in the 90s, I decided to become a rapper and record label owner, representing Washington, D.C. Southwest D.C. to be specific. So if you don't know anything about D.C., it is definitely segregated. We don't have gangs, we just got parts of the city. Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, Northwest. Alright? And within those four sections, there are other little neighborhoods that would probably be a gang if we were in California or Chicago. But here we will call it a crew, a clique, whatever, but namely crews. But there's no gangs. Like, we don't have Bloods, Crips. I'm sure they probably did in the 70s and the 60s, but for my generation, a 70s baby raised in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have gangs. So, in the early 90s, I graduated high school and I went to the 13th grade. That's what we call UDC. All right? UDC is the 13th grade. It's a University of District of Columbia, but we call it the 13th grade because you're just going so you won't be full-time in the streets. Like, you undecided about college because we weren't, our generation, right before technology, we didn't have all the access, so we didn't know about college. We didn't have a mentor, somebody pushing you, or you were serious in a sport. You know, college was the iffy thing, you know what I mean? My parents didn't push me to go to college. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go to UDC. Pay for my own classes, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't come from them families where, I'm paying for your college, you better go to college. No, motherfuckers like, you getting a job? So I did UDC for 3 years. I worked, went to school part-time, and dibbled and dabbled. At that time, I had fell in love with hip-hop. Even though D.C. is a go-go town, go-go is the sign of our city, I fell in love with hip-hop as a youngster, but I've always been married to go-go. Like, I'm from putting the tape back together, stealing my cousin R.E. tapes, recording them and giving them back, things of that nature, having a boom box. When I was young, real young, me and my friends, we used to go down by the museum, the Smithsonian, with our cardboard and try break dancing when we seen, you know, in the early, we was little youngest. You know what I mean? We wasn't even getting no money. We was just doing the shit. Well, somebody probably was getting money, but I wasn't even focused on money at that time. Like, money wasn't a thing. So, you know, if you 8 or 9, it depends on your circumstances. You know what I mean? If your mother got strung out on drugs, then chances are you was out in the streets trying to get money. But if you had your mom, you know what I mean, at least had your mom and she wasn't strung out on drugs, chances are you were a late bloomer. Unless, you know, you had a big brother. I'm an only child, so I ain't have the influence of watching my big brother jump in the streets and want to follow behind him. They have a cousin that was out there, but by all means, he avoided, you know, he ducked me and, you know what I mean, made sure I didn't, or pushed me not to be in that life, you know what I mean, followed behind him, so, you know what I mean, so anyway, so I dropped out of college to start a record label. At this time, crack was still prevalent. Crack and PCP in my neighborhood was money makers. I didn't generally fuck with PCP, and I had, you know, I dibbled with crack, but I wasn't in the streets. You know, I ain't really need to be until I realized that I could fund my dreams this way. So I started out with the rocks. Eventually, my neighborhood shifted thanks to Daru. Rest in peace, Daru, Daryl Washington. That's Wayne Perry nephew. So our neighborhood switched from coke to weed. Now, coke ain't going nowhere, but weed started popping in my neighborhood. Became the biggest weed strip on the East Coast in the early 90s. Like, there wouldn't be no cannabis. I can't say it wouldn't be no cannabis industry, but my neighborhood let it be known that cannabis exploded. Like, it just took off. That rule got killed later on, and boom. I'm talking about my entire neighborhood, you could sell a pound, bagged up, all 20s, no shorts, within an hour on the right day. Like, if you got weed, it don't matter. It's good. It's going. It's getting off. If you 24 hours, you should be out of weed. Okay. If not, you ain't doing something right. So anyway, I started from me and my rap partner, who was my next door neighbor, Steve Rush, aka Bad Boy, now known as Southside Spook, doing 90-something years in prison. You know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. We hit the streets, funded our dreams. Started a record label called Greenleaf Records. The rap group was called Soldier's World. So in the beginning, I had to take on, because I'm older than him, I bought this book out the back of the Source magazine called How to Start a Record Label. I think it cost like $100, something like that. Got the book, followed the steps. You got to do this shit manually. Wasn't no computers and typing in, downloading forms and shit. None of that. You know what I mean? The copyright, the trademark, all that shit. It gave me instructions. I did all that. You know, and then I started the process of recording. You know what I'm saying? It was a great book. Recording, mixing, master. I learned all these things going to the studio. So I learned how to become a producer by paying for studio time. And then eventually that become not very cost effective. I didn't have equipment, so I'm using like I said, DC not a hip hop town, so wasn't no studios like that I found that were like focused on hip hop. I'd be at some white studio out Burke, Virginia, or out Springfield somewhere, and I'm just playing with the sounds, mixing sounds, and it wasn't sounding. So it took a few years to get our shit together to where it's like, boom, this gonna be our single, this, that. I might do one song, we might have a concept of a song, and the beat don't match, and go back to the studio, do another beat. Like, you be on one song for a while, just changing the beat, see if it match. And then eventually, you know, we found a process. I got better as a producer. And so I've always been an in-house producer. You know what I mean? Holding songs, like, we didn't have no guidance, no managers. So this was just a wing and a prayer. You know what I mean? We finally got a manager some years later. And we were making some progress. And then infamously, my neighborhood got indicted for the K Street Crew indictment. You can Google that, the K Street Crew indictment. And so that definitely derailed Soldier's World and Greenleaf Records. I wasn't trying to be pulled into an indictment because, you know, it's Greenleaf Records. We from Greenleaf Garden Projects. You know what I mean? Soldier's World is the acronym for Southwest. Like, that's what the OGs who were older, they used to go to the Go-Go, used to say at the Go-Go. Like, back in the day, we had crews. Like, at the Go-Go, it'd be neighborhoods. And one neighborhood had a crew called the Gangster Chronicles. So when they be at the Go-Go or you listen to the PA tape, you hear them in the background screaming, Gangster Chronicles. And my neighborhood, Southwest, used to be in the Go-Go like, Soldier's World, fuck the Bama, Soldier's World, fuck the Bama. So to hear that shit on the PA tape, man, had my mind popping, captivated. So Soldier's World always stuck with me. That was my neighborhood, Southwest. So when I started the rap group, I was like, boom, I'm going to call it Soldier's World. Because I'm repping my hood. The record label's Greenleaf Garden. Like, I'm paying homage. I ain't know that was just instant that I wanted to do. All right. So now we get to the part where we almost threw our life away to be rappers. You know what I mean? So there's no technology like that. Phones are starting to come out. People had, like, I think I had a bag phone where you plug in your cigarette lighter, the little bag. This back when Cellular One was around. Cellular One became Singular, things of that nature. So I had my little Cellular One bag phone, doing it up in my little station wagon. Like, I was out there in the streets, but my neighborhood was under indictment. And the key thing about selling weed versus crack is the weed was a misdemeanor. So the police was really looking for PCP, guns, and murders. You know what I mean? So if you get pulled over, you got some weed, they might pull it out, drop it, whatever. You ain't got no guns on you, they ain't find no guns, you good. You know what I mean? That wasn't just locking you up. But later on, I found out, like, if you got caught with a quarter pound, half a pound, then you might go to court and they won't prosecute. They drop the charges. We had a little tag note of no lay prosecute on your paperwork, right? What they call it, that language, the other language of law. But that just means they're dropping the charges because they're investigating. They can bring them back further. They're gonna watch you. So what happened was I caught a gun charge, unrelated, but I had bought it legally in Virginia. I moved to Virginia. I was, shit was real. DC was a murder. We talking DC being a murder capital. I got a job. I'm in college. Dropped out of college. And I got a job, work night shift, and I'm hustling on the side. Plus, at the studio most of the time. So when I'm outside in the streets, it's mainly to get the funding for our music. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't trying to be a kingpin. I never wanted a kilo. I had access to kilos and things of that nature, but no. That's a different story. We just telling a short story of risking my life to be a rapper. So anyway, my neighborhood gets indicted. I find out beforehand that we were under investigation because I put a gun charge. Trying to get some pussy in the park. Anacostia Park. I'm with a broad. I ain't want to get a hotel because I live in I moved to Woodbridge. You know what I'm saying? So niggas wouldn't be trying to rob me or line me up and shit like that. So I moved to Virginia. Virginia, bought legal guns. DC didn't have gun laws or gun shops. Like you couldn't have a gun in DC, right? But everybody had guns. We know that, but it wasn't legal. So I bought legal guns. When I got locked up in the park with the broad, I had my gun on me. That's the reason I got locked up, because being careless, I didn't know about safety and gun classes and things of that nature. I had a motherfucker. I had the bullets all in my armrests when I'm trying to get my shit together, and so I got charged with carrying a pistol without a license, bringing lights across state lines, right? So I was about to get a lawyer, but I had a public defender, and I was telling him, "Hey man, I bought this gun legally." He was like, "Well, shit, bring the receipt. We go see what get you probation. You ain't got to go through the process, because we get catch gun charges. DC is a city. It's not a state. It's a city. So there's no state nothing. You go straight. It's straight federal case. So my first charge is a felony. You know what I mean? So we go see the federal people, me and my lawyer. And when I walk in this room, they got my whole neighborhood 3D version on the wall. You know what I mean? And it's like 20 people in this motherfucker. White, Asian, black, whatever. They asked me about the neighborhood and all types of shit. I'm like, man, I don't know nothing. They telling me, you be here, your best friend got killed. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this shit was so, I was in fucking shock. But I know the rules of the street, the code. My neighborhood is death before dishonor. Wayne Perry, these the rules. We ain't doing no telling. Niggas get their head, the thought of a nigga thinking you telling, your head getting blown off. So wasn't really worried, because they ain't got me with nothing. But this gun, I bought the wrong receipt. And the problem, I bought the wrong fucking receipt. So that's what make it even worse, because I bought receipt to another gun I bought, but it's still legal. So we leave, nothing get done. I'm like, I can't help y'all, because in my mind, nigga, I'm more worried about getting shot in the head than whatever a little bit of time I'm gonna get for this gun charge. When it's not a legal gun, ain't no bodies on it, nothing like that. So I retired. I'm be honest, I retired. Motherfuckers was, I don't know what they thought, or I couldn't say nothing. I just walked the fucking way from the streets. I had to. You know what I'm saying? I had to walk away, because I ain't trying to be, no, hell nah. I don't want to be labeled no snitch. I don't want to be involved in no snitch. The neighborhood getting indicted. You know what I'm saying? They watching this shit. They got pictures. They know shit. So niggas is telling. Because how the fuck they know who my best friend is? He got killed. My best friend got killed on his grandmother's front porch. Like, if they know that, I'm like, nah, I took my product, walked the fuck away. You know what I mean? Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not trying to, I'm not risking my life. It ain't that fucking serious. So I had to do the G thing, because I ain't going, snitching is not an option. Snitching was not an option. So I gave up the game for a couple of years. Neighborhood got indicted. You know what I'm saying? My block. You know what I mean? It's called the K Street Crew indictment, but that's my block. Only like 2 people in the indictment lived on K Street, but everybody else lived in different parts of the hood. But it was based on my street. Like my street was the pinnacle of where the weed was being sold, and then it spread throughout the whole neighborhood. But so yeah, that was the time I had to lay it down, man. I had to bow out the game. I don't want to die. I don't want to go to jail forever. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't doing no telling. You know what I mean? That's not an option. You know, I'm gonna honor the code, death before dishonor, and that's what I did. You know what I mean? So no dishonor, no death. I laid it down, man.